He was the most beloved person in the small town. With mistresses scattered throughout the entire community, he met a gruesome end one early morning, executed with 3 fatal bullets. One mysterious killer. Despite surveillance footage pinpointing the suspect, 2 separate trials in court yielded completely different verdicts. How did the jury shift from deadlock to conviction? What secrets lie behind this shocking twist? Today, we tell you the story of the John Tokuhara murder case. When people think of Hawaii, their minds typically conjure images of iconic beaches, warm sunshine, and vacation scenes from movies. But if you shift your gaze 20 miles west, near Pearl Harbor, you'll find a small town called Waipahu. There are no tourists here, no luxury hotels, only generations-old sugarcane plantations and tight-knit locals who know each other well and look out for one another. In such a close-knit community, any piece of news spreads through neighborhood group chats long before it ever reaches the television. On the 13th of January 2022, shocking news swept through the community. Acupuncturist John Tokuhara had been murdered, shot down in a brutal execution-style killing. John Tokuhara, 37 years old, was a legendary figure in this small town. He grew up in Waipahu and was a star on his high school volleyball team. He helped the team win the state championship 2 years in a row. He later left his hometown. He completed his university education on the mainland. He earned a degree in biology, and he went on to earn a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Yet, he gave up the comfortable life of a big city and chose to return home. There, he opened a small clinic with surfboards of all kinds stacked outside the door. He loved the ocean and was always inviting friends to go surfing. Everyone who knew him would say the same thing: "John is my best friend." In a community where everyone says someone is their best friend, that person must possess extraordinary charm. However, on the morning of the 13th of January 2022, John's mother pushed open the clinic door. She found not her son still asleep, but blood and gore scattered across the floor. Patient records lay scattered around John's body, and 3 shell casings from a .22 caliber bullet lay nearby. There were no signs of struggle or robbery. Police immediately recognized this as a deliberate, premeditated murder. They sprang into action, conducting searches radiating outward from the clinic. But the investigation didn't progress as smoothly as hoped. According to everyone in the community, John was nothing but a good man. He never argued with anyone and always wore a refined smile. Police knew, however, that a killer who executed someone with such vindictive force must have a motive. The investigation shifted toward a crime of passion. They quickly found leads. Police discovered a social media account on John's phone and computer and identified a woman with whom he had frequent contact, Joyce Thompson. She was a former patient and a married woman. The chat records showed clear signs of intimate relations between the two. Importantly, while John was single, Joyce was another man's wife. Could it be that Joyce's husband discovered the affair and decided to kill? As the investigation deepened, Joyce's husband emerged, Eric Thompson, a successful contractor. Eric and Joyce knew each other in high school. They married 14 years after first meeting and had a daughter named Emma 3 years into their marriage. They appeared to be the perfect couple, or so it seemed. They lived in an upscale neighborhood on the east side of Tantalus, complete with a tennis court and rental units, just 1 block from the beach. Police brought the couple in for questioning. Joyce claimed she had already cut off contact with John months ago, and the chat records supported this. But as the investigation deepened, police discovered this woman was far more unfaithful than imagined. She maintained several regular paramours and numerous casual relationships. One man named Daryl Fujita caught police attention. He had been entangled with Joyce right after her marriage, but Joyce abandoned him when she met John. A few years later, they reunited. However, a year before, Joyce left him again for John. Just months earlier, they got back together. This tangled web of relationships was dizzying. Could this really be a case of mistress number 2, jealous of mistress numbers 3 or 4? Meanwhile, police began interrogating Daryl. He insisted he had no conflict with John, but when officers asked to see his phone, they discovered something suspicious. He had factory reset it just before coming to the station. This immediately raised red flags. Why would someone wipe their phone before meeting with police? Daryl claimed it was just his personal habit, an explanation that hardly anyone would believe. But police faced an even bigger headache as the investigation progressed. They discovered John's private life was possibly even more complicated than Joyce's. In this small town, he had intimate relations with over a dozen women. Most of them were his patients, and most of them were married. This complex web of relationships left police bewildered. Then, the crime scene investigation team brought new information. They found a hidden backpack in John's clinic. It contained approximately $4,000 in cash, all in $100 bills. The problem was, John's clinic didn't charge high fees. No patient would pay such large sums in cash. Bank records also showed John had never withdrawn such large amounts of money. Where did this money come from? Was he involved in other transactions beyond what was visible? Police began canvassing for clues, but it was like finding a needle in a haystack. With limited options, their hopes rested on the few surveillance cameras in the area. Public surveillance in Hawaii is sparse, so police could only access cameras installed by local shops. It was tedious, exhausting work. Hours upon hours of footage, showing ordinary pedestrians and vehicles. People going to work, leaving work, shopping, taking walks, everything seemed routine. But through frame-by-frame analysis, a strange figure began to emerge. This person wore very unusual clothing. In Hawaii's heat, this outfit seemed strangely out of place. A trendy white sun hat, sunglasses, a face mask, and a heavy windbreaker. Moreover, this person appeared to be pacing back and forth across the street with a wandering gaze. Although there was no camera at John's clinic entrance, from this angle, you could see this person's line of sight. It was directed right at the clinic. Who was this person? Why disguise themselves this way? Police began tracking his movements frame by frame. First, he appeared in a daycare parking lot camera, walking along a hedge. 8 minutes later, the white hat figure was captured again, this time by the daycare camera. In that position, 2 cameras directly covered the street. The white hat figure continued forward. He turned right at an intersection, where a tall sign had 2 cameras perfectly covering the street. These cameras captured him, pacing back and forth across from the clinic, looking extremely suspicious. He then crossed the street toward the clinic, but suddenly turned around and walked along the sidewalk of the business street, lingering near the Extreme Grill restaurant, which had multi-angle cameras. The surveillance showed the white hat figure crossing a patch of grass, as if heading in some direction, then changing his mind and moving behind the building. A camera in the rear parking lot captured him, but its range didn't cover John's back door. However, if we look at the camera above the Extreme Grill restaurant and zoom in, we can see something important. There is the white hat figure near John's clinic's back door. The time is 6:15 and 51 seconds p.m. Then he disappeared. In the next 73 seconds, police believe John Tokuhara was murdered. After that, the white hat figure appeared again, moving much faster this time. He retraced his steps, passing all those surveillance cameras, but without the earlier hesitation. On his return, his pace was noticeably rushed, as if desperate to flee the scene. Coincidentally, as he crossed the street, a gust of wind knocked his hat off. It fell onto the road. More surprisingly, he didn't stop to pick it up. Seemingly unaware, he lowered his head and quickly disappeared. Through repeated examination of the surveillance footage, police noticed something crucial. Beneath the hat appeared to be something else. After careful analysis, they concluded this person likely wore a wig under the hat. After the white hat was repeatedly run over by vehicles on the street, 10 minutes later, a homeless man picked it up. He crumpled it into a ball and placed it beside a cooler at his camp. 10 days later, when police located this homeless man, he admitted picking up the hat. He accurately pointed out where he found it. But here's the problem. The hat had already been run over multiple times and potentially touched by countless people. Could it still serve as reliable evidence? Meanwhile, police also noticed another key point during their investigation: a white pickup truck. This truck appeared repeatedly in surveillance footage and seemed highly correlated with the white hat figure's movements. The white pickup appeared in the Extreme Grill camera, then was captured by cameras at the sign, the ambulance station, and the warehouse parking lot. Its movements were very systematic, aligning perfectly with the suspect's trajectory. 22 minutes before the murder, the white pickup appeared on camera. 8 minutes later, the white hat figure appeared, heading toward John's clinic. 10 minutes after that, he returned, hat gone. 1 minute later, the white pickup reappeared on camera. It turned right, drove past the garden, and disappeared toward the highway. Were these two connected? Was the truck driver the suspect's accomplice? Or was it mere coincidence? Police brought in vehicle experts, who analyzed the truck's features in the surveillance footage. It was a 2014 to 2016 Chevrolet Silverado work truck, extremely common in Hawaii. But when police queried the vehicle registration database, they found shocking information. Among all trucks matching the description, one belonged to Eric Thompson. That's right, the husband whose wife had an affair with John. Police immediately obtained a search warrant and searched Eric's mansion. They quickly found the pickup truck that appeared in the footage and discovered 12 firearms of various types inside the house, including a handgun capable of firing 22 bullets. However, beyond that, they found nothing related to John. Not on Eric's computer, not on his phone. Testing showed that none of the 12 weapons could be matched to the shell casings found at the scene. All that remained was the hope that the hat would contain Eric's DNA. But 2 weeks later, the analysis was disappointing. The DNA on the hat had been severely contaminated. It couldn't serve as conclusive evidence. With no other options, the prosecutor proceeded to indict Eric. On the 14th of February 2022, Valentine's Day, Eric Thompson was arrested on murder charges. However, he didn't stay in jail long. He quickly posted $1 million bail and returned home. In September 2023, the case went to trial. The prosecutor charged Eric with murder and told a conventional crime of passion story. The most suspicious element was Eric's factory reset of his phone. In court, Eric explained that he did this because he didn't want his infidelity discovered. So he cleared the data. Whether this was true or false, no one could say. The prosecutor then presented the surveillance footage from the time of the crime and explained the timing of the truck and suspect's appearance. But here was the problem. There was no concrete evidence proving the man in the footage was Eric. The person was disguised extremely well. Even Joyce couldn't recognize whether it was her husband. As for the truck, it was just the same model as Eric's. Remember, Hawaii has thousands of such trucks. Mere visual similarity proved nothing. As for the crime of passion, motive, Joyce came forward to defend her husband. She said she had already confessed the affair with John to Eric and promised to cut off contact. To repair their relationship, Joyce even proposed signing a post-nuptial agreement that essentially stated if the marriage broke down for any reason, Eric would receive everything: the house, child custody, all assets. Joyce agreed to these terms. She said they didn't want a divorce. They just wanted to repair their relationship. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury was deadlocked. The vote was 9-3. Most believed in guilt, but 3 jurors insisted the evidence was insufficient. The judge declared the trial a mistrial. Eric Thompson was released and sent home under continued house arrest. But the story wasn't over. The prosecution decided to retry the case. On the 21st of January 2025, the second trial began. This time, the prosecution focused more on motive. They called Joyce's sister Kelly to testify. Kelly testified that in the first week after the affair was exposed, Eric and Joyce's relationship seemed somewhat different. But after that, it was like nothing happened. They returned to normal life. Based on this, the prosecution claimed Eric had been calmly planning his strategy. The remaining evidence seemed irrelevant. Therefore, the second trial resulted in an 8-3-1 vote. 8 guilty, 3 undecided, 1 not guilty. The undecided jurors leaned toward acquittal. After all, these were mostly speculation, and reasonable doubt is the principle followed everywhere. However, the case quickly faced another reversal. Before the second trial's verdict, the prosecution revealed their trump card, that abandoned white hat. Although they couldn't be 100% certain the DNA on the hat belonged to Eric, testing showed something remarkable. The DNA profile was 164 trillion times more likely to be Eric's than any random individual's, an extraordinarily exaggerated number that virtually confirmed the hat belonged to Eric. Based on this data, the jury's opinion completely reversed. In the case of State of Hawaii v. Eric Thompson, the jury found the defendant guilty on the first count, murder in the first degree. With that, the case seemed to be closed. But honestly, I maintain reservations about this case. While Eric certainly had a motive, most of this evidence is circumstantial. Eric has never confessed to the crime and continues to pursue appeals. Perhaps in the next trial, this case will take another dramatic turn. I will continue to follow this case and provide updates. So, do you think this verdict is just? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.